I feel like every founder of an agency almost has this like secret side hustle, which they only do at night, which is staying up to date on AI tools and learning them. The agency founders are grabbing the wheel again. There was a bit of a trend where we're going to get our operations shipshape, and then I'm going to step back. But now people are like, there's so much disruption. I have to get back involved again.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to Agency Success at hosting.com. My name is Corey Miller. I'm our chief evangelist here, head of our community. I've got Ollie Feldman and Mike Demo with us, but we've got a very special guest, Ian Harris, founder of Agency Hackers. And if you haven't heard of Agency Hackers, this is the live stream for you. I've told you, Ian, a couple weeks ago when we got to meet and talk, that I highly admire what you've done at Agency Hackers. I ran a community called Post Status and WordPress for a while, and I know how hard it is to build a community of anybody. It's like herding cats, and you've done it. And recently, I know through Ollie and Mike, we were at the Agency Hackers event in Miami, and I was so excited to see what you've done and built in Europe and Britain specifically come over to the US. We need it. We've got great people here doing great stuff, but from the level I've seen the Agency Hackers has done community, it's incredible. We need it here, especially with our agency partners at hosting.com. So welcome to the live stream today, and I'm glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you. It's very nice of you to invite me. Yeah, I mean, we'll get into some of the kind of transatlantic cultural stuff, but yeah, I mean, there's already there's some great communities in the US. So anytime we're in the States, I always kind of try to stress that we're very grateful to be there, and for people to welcome us there, because we know there's already kind of a nice landscape of people doing really good things there.
Ollie and Mike, you all chime in. You work with agency partners all day, every day. That's your work here. Ollie leading our team. Mike, we go way back as well, but you all chime in too. But we want to talk about a couple of things, Ian. How Agency Hackers got started, what it's like to build a community. Some of that's probably grief canceling between me and you, or just for me, but building community like Agency Hackers. And we want to talk about the Miami event, some takeaways there. And of course, the thing that's always on my mind is, Mike and I for sure in the US know kind of the agency. We have dozens of friends that are agency owners. We're always curious how it's different or the same in Britain and Germany and beyond. So those are some of the topics today for you all that we're going to be having. Of course, as always, put in the Q&A or the chat questions you might have. But Ollie, do we want to get started with just how Agency Hackers got started?
Yeah, so I've heard this story once from Ian over a community dinner somewhere in London, and it's a fascinating story. So yeah, look forward to everyone else getting to hear it.
Ollie, you were the first person to kind of put Agency Hackers on my roadmap a year ago when we met, and I said, hey, we need to be best friends because what you're doing and I'm doing, we're partners. And you were quick to say, we've got this amazing partnership with Agency Hackers. Could you give just a snippet before we start really interrogating Ian on all this about Agency Hackers and your experience with Ian and his team and community?
Yeah, absolutely. So the partnership is fairly recent over the last few years, but we've actually been part of the community and attending events for many years. Back in the days when we were, mainly focused on our Nimbus brands, many moons ago now, we used to attend some of the amazing events that Hackers put on. And what stood out to us, and what made us want to make a partnership with Agency Hackers, is the community side of it, and actually how open that community is. I think Agency Hackers have built a community different to many others, where people are really willing to be raw and open, which, from our point of view, we're never trying to shove hosting down someone's throat. We always want to just help people when they've got pain points, and people who are willing to be raw on what's going on in their business, in their agency, starts great communication, starts great conversations, and allows us to help them as well as them to help each other. So that's really why we got into the Agency Hackers community. And then through knowing Ian, getting to know Anne more, you really feel like you become part of the community yourself. And I think that's a key thing for us as partners, is we're not just a tag along. It doesn't feel like we feel very much part of the community as well, which is really important to us. And I think it is a community like no other.
Yeah, and everybody loves hosting.com. My my kids are going mad for the Tide pens that you brought to Miami. They are in heavy circulation in the house. So thank you
Be
for
trading them at school soon.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Such a great idea. So happy we did that.
That was your idea, wasn't it, Mike?
Well done.
Yeah, that's kind of tied to me. Put it this way: when I was at InMotion hosting, and I left, I announced I was leaving. They did a social post saying that the Tide pens were going to still exist because people knew me so much for those Tide pens.
Yeah. Well, Ian, can you first just give us an overview of Agency Hackers, what it is, what you all do, the primary kind of benefits of being a part of the community? Then I'll ask about how you got started with all this.
Yeah, sure. So Agency Hackers, it's an events and community business for independent agencies. So if you run an independent agency, we have like a membership program where you can join and you get to be part of agency board, which is this like a chaired, facilitated meeting once a quarter where you get to bring your problems and have other people solve them. We do conferences in London, New York, Ibiza, Miami. So all the places I want to go, essentially. And yeah, we've been around for like 9 years, and we try to focus on not the kind of big picture stuff that you might see at like South by Southwest London, where someone will kind of talk about what's the future of digital, or the kind of big macro things. We tried to talk about quite crunchy, specific things, like how do I get my team to do what I want them to do, or like how do I get my clients to understand everything that we do as a business, like the kind of practical, tactical things that agency leaders keeps them awake at night. So that's kind of our recipe, really.
Okay, when you said the agency board, I wanted to say to everyone here live and then watching the recording later, that's why you need to join right there. So I was part of Ian, I was part of an organization called EO Network, Entrepreneurs Organization, for 11 years. And having a group of like-minded people on the same or similar path as you is invaluable. Because if you all know you're entrepreneurs, it's a lonely job. So right there is the reason to go join Agency Hackers for sure. It's invaluable because you can feel like you're on an island so many times, and then to have people that are in the same circumstance, and you're not competing, you're cooperating, you're collaborating, you're saying you're not alone, I'm not alone, and you're sharing those experiences. Invaluable, Ian. So that right there, I wrote it down as like start it, because we got to talk about that for sure. Okay, so Agency Hackers, how'd you get started with all this?
There's always, when you have a business, there's always kind of a fake story, and then there's the real story, and you kind of start to believe the fake story after a few years. Like it's, well, we just wanted to help agencies, and that's kind of true. But if you think back to when I started it, I just wanted to start a business, to be honest with you, because I wanted to run my own thing, and I thought agency leaders would be a good audience, because if you have a business, that your business is difficult unless you can reach people reliably. And I thought agency leaders would be a good audience because they're quite visible, like they have to be found by people. They're generally quite fun people to work with, and they also there's not much bureaucracy. Like if they want to do something, they can just do it. And I'd always been like, my background was in journalism, so I used to write for newspapers and magazines, and I ended up, after about 10 years, I realized there was no money in it. So I was like I was a very slow learner. But I ended up in-house in corporate places. Like I worked for like a big. Do you remember Party Poker? I think it's still around. Like there was a time in the 2005 where everyone went online poker mad, and I worked for them. And I did something called internal communication, which was basically like I had a little email newsletter inside the company, basically. And because there was all these engineers, like one day there was a guy, his name was Santosh, and I saw him putting his coat on, and he was going up to the roof. And I said, "Why are you going to the roof?" And he said, "Well, we've got a windmill on the roof." And I said, "Why have you got a windmill on the roof?" And basically, when the wind blew, that would generate random numbers, and these random numbers would be fed into the computer, and that would decide what cards came out. Because computers can't think of a random number; they need like an organic input. So I thought, but that was quite cool. So I put that in my email newsletter, and I had this like big audience around the company, and people would always we'd have the CEO come and visit the office, and people say, we need to get some time with him. We need to get some time with Jim. And I was like, I can get time with him whenever I want, because he always reads this email newsletter. I can see it. And I sort of realized like how powerful it was to have like an audience. If you kind of told interesting stories about things that other people didn't really overlooked, then you could build an audience. So I thought, it's not very valuable having this audience inside this company, but what if I could do that for other like professional markets? So I had a couple of other community kind of businesses. Like I started a thing called Rockstar Comms, which was for people in like the HR space, and we tell stories about the HR industry, and that got a big audience. And then I like sold that business. And when I started Agency Hackers, I thought I want to start this, and it was just an email newsletter for a year or two. I just find interesting stories and share it. And then one day I just said to the list, what would you buy from me? What would you? And then people just came up with all these ideas. And like one of them was a conference, I think. And we ran a conference, and then that's how we got started.
That's incredible. I didn't know a lot of these details, but our careers have actually paralleled each other in a lot of ways. I started out as a print journalist as well. Well, that is fantastic. So looking back 9 years now, what are some of the big points where it's kind of evolved and those catalytic moments? I know the Ibiza Super Summit was one of those, but could you kind of give us some of the big hallmarks along the way?
Well, for the first 3 years I was doing it, I had a job, and I just built Agency Hackers on the side. But then one day we started doing lots of events, and one day I just ran out of holiday. I just ran out of vacation. I just had no more time off. So I physically couldn't do any. But just at that point, it was kind of I was making as much money as I was making in my job. So I thought, okay, this is a good time to smoothly crossfade from one to the other. So I left and went all in, and I had all the live events all planned out for the rest of the year. And I went full time in March 2020, and then I heard about this, this virus circulating, and I had this draft about saying, look, if we all had to like wash our hands or something, or whatever, would you still come to this event? And I didn't send it because I thought it was so ridiculous to send an email about this virus that was circulating in China. People would just think I was a crank. I've still got that draft somewhere. But then COVID happened, and I thought, wow, I've just left my job to go all in a live events business. That's not good. But it actually gave Agency Hackers more of a purpose, because all of a sudden people had something to talk about. So that was a big moment when it took off. And then it's kind of just we've just steadily grown. The thing about with the community, I don't know if you've found this, or the thing about with the community is it just takes a while for people to learn about you, and then all of a sudden there's like these quantum leaps, it's like in evolution, apparently, like species don't evolve at some kind of linear rate. They, like, when they look at the fossils, these species will stay quite steady for millions of years, and then all of a sudden, like, a camel becomes a giraffe in like the space of 2 million years, which is like quite small space of time. But nature moves in quantum leaps, and it's kind of the same with us. Like, all of a sudden there's just, I've heard of Agency Hackers, whereas like 2 weeks later it seems like no one has heard of you. So that's been quite interesting, and it's often as a result of kind of like viral things we've done. So we do like an agency comedy night, which is quite, people kind of share, and then we decided we do that at the Comedy Store, and Ollie and the team have been down to that, and doing the Ibiza as well is something that people have they either love it or they hate it. They're like, what, there's the agency conference in Ibiza? Like, how are you going to get that past your accountant? So yeah, doing these kind of like what Seth Godin would call a purple cow, those are kind of put us on the map, I think.
It's a challenge, any business, but for sure community. But for those of you, I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience today. You probably reflect this too. Is you said 3 years building it, and then went full time. Like that's how so many businesses I know of my own and past ones and many others, the same thing. It starts out as some kind of passion and interest and then just kind of builds, but you stay steady enough to be there for those moments when people are like, hey, we need this, or to be found. And so absolutely I reflect that. Community businesses, having ran one, I didn't start it, but I ran it, is tough. You're really trying to make sure people understand the value of being together in this, to having a voice, to hearing each other's stories and sharing experiences together. And it just takes a while. I think business in general, but for sure community. But I applaud you for just being consistent enough to build, and then have these moments for sure. Mike, do you have something?
Yeah. So when Ian was talking about Ibiza and being like, how do you get that past, finance and all that? I am a community person. I've done community work for 15 years, through lots of through agencies and hosting companies and all that. And what I think Ian's captured, specifically at like the Miami, and I'm assuming Ibiza, I haven't been, hopefully next year, is I find there's big value in getting people into a bubble where there's not distractions. I think Cloudfest in Germany does this really well because it's in a town of, 2,000 people. So you bring 10,000 people into a place where there's not, the closest city of any size is 2 hours away by train. So I think Ibiza is probably pretty similar to that. It also reminds me of our friend Chris Lemma. He does Cabo Press, which is a small mastermind conference in Cabo, San Lucas. There's value in having people kind of captured in like a bubble so you can have real conversations. That's why I find Vegas is awful for conferences, because people just don't show up. They are distracted. They go do that other stuff. So that's my hypothesis anyway, on what I've found on type of events I like.
Yeah, I agree. Because we find that people they make quite major decisions when they come to particularly the Ibiza conference. People go back and they change like some of the team, maybe they change the strategy, but they have this sort of like reflective they lots of reflective takeaways. The other thing that's interesting is that one of the reasons people attend is because they like having friends is quite rare. Like one woman said, to make new friends in your 40s is quite special, and you don't get many opportunities to do that once you reach a certain point in your life. But people, yeah, through the events, people have made proper friendships, and they go on holiday, and the children know each other, like, which is remarkable.
Yeah, about the decision thing, I always use the analogy of like, I don't know if this translates, but like, when you're in like middle school or elementary school and you're sent to like, and your church does like a camp or like a little retreat, you're very motivated about the cause that that church was pushing. And I kind of feel like it's very similar. Like you need these recharge moments where you're disconnected and can connect with like-minded people without an alternative motive, without having to jump on a call in 20 minutes. And I can see that.
But the challenge is like, because that's really the value that we're selling. But the thing is, we can't sell that because no one will come. Like if you say to people, this is great, you're going to make friends and we're going to hang out, like that, they won't spend like hundreds of pounds on a ticket for that. So you have to have like big speakers, or you have to have interesting lineup, which is fine, that's what we do. But then when in the feedback they'll say, oh, it was day 2 was so like this came up in the Miami feedback. They'll say, oh, day 2 was quite long, and you'd be like, yeah, well, you might not have come unless we put all those speakers on. So it's kind of it's weird. It's a weird business because there's what people think they want and there's what they actually want. Because a lot of conferences cater to what people think they want. So that's where you go to them and everyone's just sat in the theatre style, like in rows, and no one could speak to each other. And it's like you're in a big barn and just people talk at you all day. And so yeah, but that's kind of one of the tricky things of running a business. Like, well, you want the connections like Demo's talking about, but that's difficult to communicate on a landing page.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my thesis probably, and I want to see if this is true for agency hackers, they come for some need, go, okay, I've got some challenging thing I can't figure out, or I feel, hey, I just need more input. Well, you might kind of come to a conference, but they stay for the relationships, because that's the big difference between a conference and what agency hackers does. It's like you just said it perfectly. We're not just sitting here listening to someone, all morning. We're listening, and then we're like, what do you think about that? How is that running your agency? And that is the huge difference for a community business like agency hackers, for sure. But do you sense that when new members come, they probably have some burning need, or, and then realize, oh my gosh, these are my people?
Well, I think the problem is, like, if you think about it, a lot of people presume that going to a conference or an event, it's about information delivery. But if you think about it, it's like the least efficient way of transmitting information you could possibly invent, because you have to fly there, then you have to sit in a room, and then someone will kind of talk, and they'll probably share with you 2,300 words, let's say, over the course of their talk, which is kind of, some of it might relate to you and some of it might not relate to you. So if you think about it, it's very not good from an information delivery perspective. But you're not actually like purchasing information, because you could just buy a book or listen to a YouTube talk if that was the case. What you're kind of what you're paying for is the excuse to sort of be in the room where you're allowing like the pieces to fall into place. That's kind of the way I see it. Like I always say, there's when you're in a room and there's people on the stage and there's people around you, it's kind of working on there's like an A channel, to use an audio metaphor. There's like an A channel and a B channel. And the A channel is what's happening on the stage. You might take a photo of the slides and whatever. But the B channel is what's happening in your head. And in it, you might be thinking, do you ever go to see a movie or the theatre, and like what you start thinking about something that's nothing to do with what's happening on. Like I always get that. And whenever I listen to someone talk, I always come out with ideas, and it might just be one thing that they've said, but I'll take a completely different interpretation on it. And I think that's true for a lot of people. They have these penny drop moments where that's completely unique to them. And it could just be like they could be inspired by just the way someone says something, or like Blair Enns was talking at the Miami conference. And he was describing how he said to a client, he was asking for like the fee, and he said, "I'd like to be paid $50,000." And I thought, I just took away, that's such a nice way to sort of say what you like. I'd like to be paid $50,000. I thought, yeah, I'm gonna use that. So there's all these little things that I think people take away, and it's never kind of a neat. It's never like wrapped up in a neat bow for you. It's always kind of these sort of messy little things that you take away. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, absolutely. It's connecting the dots. I mean, we're a tribal species, so being in the same place, but those lightning moments, you're like, I got to capture this. But oftentimes I'll come from a conference with 15 ideas. I can't implement all those, and being able to bounce off other people at the same time. Well, you mentioned the Miami Super Summit. We're just coming off that. I know Mike and Ollie were there, but can you tell us a little bit about the Miami Super Summit, what went into it, and what were some of the big takeaways? You obviously, planned it, you and your team, and there were some key topics that came through. So could you kind of give us both of those, the planning that went into it, and then also some of the takeaways, some of those moments you were just talking about that happened?
Sure. So we kind of, like, I imagined it as well, to go back, we've been wanting to do stuff in the US for some time, because we're quite Agency Hackers is quite well known in the UK. I would say it's probably the most like well known agency community in Britain. And we have our Ibiza event, and that's been very successful. And I was thinking, I'd like a kind of destination event that people would fly into in the States, and I just thought, yeah, Miami is the US version of that. But I sort of knew from the start that it wouldn't be like a straight copy and paste, because it's not going to be like in Ibiza. I think people are there for because they like dance music and they like clubbing, as well as as well as the fact that they're agency leaders. Like the archetypal agency person who comes to Ibiza, we actually ran this through Claude, and it kind of, with all our attendee data, it told me it's a 43-year-old woman who runs an agency, and yeah, and like it's kind of, she wants to sort of get away. She's responsible for most of the childcare. She never gets a holiday, so she wants to kind of come and learn and work on the business and pretend to be 20 again, which is kind of what we all want to do. But that's we didn't expect that to be as true in Miami, because I think what we found is that like our assumption was that in the US they show up much more for the content, whereas in the UK I think they sometimes show up for the evenings as well. So yeah, we knew it wouldn't be a straight kind of copy and paste, but we started planning it about 18 months ago. And we knew we wanted to do a 2-day conference. We reached out to some kind of big names like Rory Sutherland, Blair Enns. And yeah, we just started promoting it really. We were quite pleased. People seem to be quite appreciative of it. It's much harder for us promoting this than it was Ibiza, because when we don't know, like this time last year, we didn't know anyone really in the States pretty much. I mean, I'd email people and they wouldn't reply. But since we've kind of we've been doing quarterly events in New York, and that's got us a certain amount of traction. So people know us. And I actually heard that there was another conference where people were talking about Agency Hackers, that we weren't there. So it's kind of starting to light a few fires. Yeah, it was, in terms of, we always put a lot of evening things on for in Ibiza. I'm not sure and they cost quite a lot of money to do. And like we were on this Miami rooftop, and I think I saw some guys like spend like $500 on a bottle or something. They brought out these sparklers, and I was like, we just spent 20 grand on this thing. Well, where's my sparkler? Where's my flame? But yeah, it was interesting because I don't think we didn't get as much attendance in the evening things as I thought. So that's maybe one learning. But yeah, overall, I mean, I can go into the feedback if you want, and just tell you what people said. So we always ask people for feedback, and if you ask people for feedback, they will not give any, because why would you? Like it's just, you're not going to hear anything back. So we always say to people, look, if you give us the feedback, we'll actually publish the feedback in a blog post, and we'll share all the bad stuff that people say as well, because then it's more interesting. You can kind of see, what did other people think. So we started doing that a few years ago, and the first time we did it, it was really brutal, because you're asking people just to strip you naked and tell you how ugly you are. Like that's basically what you're doing. This was late, the food was bad, that you guys are unprofessional, the talks were nothing like you promised, and that's kind of all the feedback we got for a while. But then we kind of fixed these like software bugs, if you like, and we sort of fixed them, and now we never get any feedback like that anymore. But and generally our scores are quite high. But going into the States, we thought, well, we're probably going to get some things wrong, and so we'll see. But actually, for this one, well, for every event we've done really in the US, it's been like 9 and 8 out of 10. So this Miami one was the 9.05 out of 10 average. And what people, my instinct at first is, are people in the States just nicer? Are they just kind of being? But I checked in, and I think they were quite pleased. But yeah, some of the stuff we learned. People said, well, it's a 2-day conference. Like day 2 kind of emptied out in the middle because I think people could they'd sort of pick and choose which things they want to attend. So some people felt it was a shame that people didn't stick around for those. Some of the people from the States said when UK founders were on the stage, they all presumed that everyone knew who their agencies were. And of course, the US agencies wouldn't have a clue. In the States, I think people like to be everyone needs a proper introduction. And I think some of the Brits forgot to do that, which is a fair comment. The other thing that came up was sometimes in the States, I think structure is appreciated, they panels and clear kind of chapters. And I'm not sure the kind of looser interviewing style always works as well. So, but I also found that some of the US attendees were quite pleased by things we take for granted. Because after some of the talks, we would say, okay, now we're going to give you time to talk to people on your tables, and then we're going to move you around. And people kept saying that was brilliant. That was the best bit. And that was kind of surprising because that was just something that didn't cost us any money. It was just you talking to each other. So that was quite interesting.
I think from being part of that moving around the different tables, I think particularly more so the US agencies, it got them talking, because I think they very much were, and it's just my take on it, were very much in learning mode. As you say, they come for the information, and that sort of lent them in a soft way into the social side, which was really good to see.
Yeah, what we didn't have in Miami, which is kind of a bit of not a problem, but it's just an interesting reality of Ibiza, is just general behavior on the island kind of Ibiza. The kind of people have varying expectations of hedonism, should we say? And so some people in Ibiza don't drink, for example. You see them running in the morning, and this year in Ibiza we've got a little gang of sober people who are just, and if you don't drink, you can kind of join their gang. But yeah, we didn't really have any. So sometimes in the Ibiza feedback that comes up, people were quite drunk or whatever. But yeah, everyone seemed quite behaved in Miami. Everyone seemed quite professional. There's the whole other kind of cultural stuff I thought was interesting to go into if you want.
Well, I want to be sure we get to some of the other things on our agenda today. I don't want to run out of time. Your time is valuable to us, and I want to make sure we make the most of it. But I think you're right on. The blend. I think of it, these type of community events that you put on, workations. Okay, I'm going to get some stuff, but the space just to get on the airplane, the margin, just to kind of get away from the business, to think about it, and then go with like-minded peer, hear great topics, and then also kind of enjoy yourself. However that is, that's the opportunity that presents itself. So I appreciate that. But Ian, I wanted to ask, you've got members everywhere. You're branching out more into the US and other places, I think. But I'm just kind of curious. I think I've got a sense for US agencies. But I'm curious your thoughts and perspectives on British agencies, German agencies, US agencies, and anywhere else. And what are some of the differences and the similarity? I mean, the similarities has got to be the similar work, but what do you see between the different agencies in different countries from that cultural basis too, and maybe even the markets that they serve? What are some things that stand out to you?
So we're doing stuff in the States very much. We're also starting to do some things in Germany as well. And the thing about these markets for us is that there's always people who pop up and say, what you're doing is nice, but it will not work in the States, or it will not work in Germany. And they'll come up with all these reasons, like, well, in the States, people are a lot more competitive and they don't want to be in the same room as their competitors, and they'll say, well, in Germany, privacy is very important, and they like following rules, and so they're not going to come to an event where they're just going to moan about their clients or share the confidential information, because it's just a no. And there's always like a pinch of truth in this, but what you find is that it's not true, or you just attract the people that doesn't apply to. So I don't know what it is, but I kind of just, I've learned to just kind of ignore this stuff and just do it anyway. But yeah, in the US, I mean, I've noticed that agencies are a lot bigger. Someone said to us, we're probably too small for agency hackers because we're only $20 million in revenue. And I thought, gosh, that's like a huge agency by UK standards. People seem, not to kind of do down Britain, but that people seem that there's sort of like a level of professionalism that I can't quite put my finger on. In the States, they've been around for a lot longer. It's just it seems very common to find agencies that have been going for 20 years, even like 30 years. People started in 1996. And that's kind of interesting. They're much better at sales as well. I think they're not afraid to call it sales as well. We have like business development and new business, and so and they also want to know, I found in the States, people want to know your story a lot more. Like when people will say to me, what are you doing with agency hackers? And what are you trying to do? And the problem is I don't know what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to kind of make it to the next level of the game. And it forces you to think, wow, what am I trying to do? Because they seem to generally want to know. And someone said to me, well, they want to know because then they can help you. And I thought, wow, that's really nice. So those are some kind of interesting things I've observed.
Yeah, a really big thing I saw in Miami is that the agencies, don't get me wrong, the UK agency community is not cutthroat trying to take work with each other constantly. Everyone does help each other. But in the US, I think even when the US agencies didn't know someone, they wanted to see if they could help or make an introduction or offer some advice.
And people are really helpful. I mean, they'll go out of the way to introduce you. And I think one of the things that I'm quite conscious of is we did our first conference in New York in October, and it went very well. But like I was fresh off doing agency comedy night, I think, and I was kind of I kind of did like 2 minutes of material at the start. I don't think it went down that well. It was about kind of just the differences between Brits and Americans. Because I was curious. I don't think my brother lives in Colorado, and he says that he doesn't have any egg cups to put his egg in, and I was curious about that. And like sometimes that can work, but I think it's just careful. You've got to be careful not to sort of come across as the kind of arrogant Brits. That's kind of you've got to be quite sensitive to that. And yeah, so that's one thing. The other big difference with the US is there's less, like in the UK, there's a sort of dense, self-aware ecosystem. Like there's sort of a bit of a agency scene, if you like, and I found that the people are creating that in the States, like the Bureau and other communities. But outside of that, there's less. Like it's quite common to meet agencies that just are not part of any ecosystem at all.
And did that reflect in any of the feedback? Is there any sort of way you could correlate back to it almost being like someone's first event in a community?
Yeah. People are just. They're in the feedback, it comes up. Just love talking to other agencies. Loved hearing from like all just the really basic bolts of what we do, what our business is. They're just impressed by that. So that was very encouraging. Germany as well is interesting. We're doing some stuff there. We're doing something there in November. We decided to do it completely in German because Germany's it's the third biggest economy. I always keep saying it's the third biggest economy in the world, and there's not really much agency stuff there. I was watching an interview with Mr. Beast, and he said something. It's so basic, but it's so obvious. He was saying, look, do you realize that 90% of the world doesn't speak English, and or has the local language? So he started his channel doing dubs of his channel, and it's just his traffic went up 5 times. And I thought, wow, that's so interesting. I'm completely ignoring all these other countries just because I can't speak the language. So we're just finding a way to run agency events in local German language there, even though they all speak English. But I just think a room full of Germans should be talking German to each other.
Yeah, and there's some amazing agencies in Germany. We have a lot of clients across EMEA, and France and Germany particularly have some standout, really, really cool agencies doing some amazing things.
Well, and the kind of clients they have there is like these, what do they call it in Germany, the Mittelstand, like that family-owned businesses that, like Dr. Oetker, the frozen food company, Miele, the
washing machines and
washing machines, yeah. Just really, they've been around for 100 years. They will be around for another 100 years. They're just carefully, conservatively run, like family-owned, So, yeah, just really good clients for them to have.
I was on I was on a team that helped run the Joomla World Conference in Italy, and for the same reason, that was the first year we tried live translation. So we hired a company to come, and there was a sound booth in the back, and we gave people little headsets, like you see in the UN, and we had a service live translate every talk into Italian, and the attendance more than doubled, because there was the people that would go to every Joomla World Conference, but then we would never get locals, hardly ever, because of the language thing. So once we had native Italian as an option, and it was expensive, we had to hire a service, and they built a whole booth in the back, and they handed out the little packs that people would wear in their ear and everything, but it worked, and it was super interesting.
Well, I'm curious, Ian, your membership and your community, what are they thinking about overall today? You've got agency members in different countries and expanding too. I'm just curious what the temperature is in the community right now. Obviously, we've got a conference we just went to a month ago for WordPress business owners, and AI is always, a huge subject. But what is on your membership's mind?
Is it different with, obviously, Miami being the first big conference in the US? Is there a difference between the British and US agencies, and what's on their minds?
It's always like a cliche to say AI, but I feel like every founder of an agency almost has this like secret side hustle, which they only do at night, which is staying up to date on AI tools and learning them. Like we did a poll in the WhatsApp group, and it said like who's driving AI in your organization? Is it the founder or is it the team? And almost everyone said it's mostly the founder or leader. And they are, like they're just working out how it applies to them, because people's ambition used to be to grow their headcount. I mean, 7 times out of 10, if you spoke to an agency leader, they would say, "Yeah, this time next year we're going to be 100 people. We're 70 now. We're going to be 100." I've not heard anyone say that for about 3 years. And yeah, this kind of like the agency founders are grabbing the wheel again in a big way. There was a bit of a trend where we're going to get our operations shipshape, and then I'm going to step back. I'm going to put a capable COO in there, maybe promote the operations person, and put them in place. But now people are there's so much disruption. I have to get back involved again, and there's just like lots of kind of decisions that people have been putting off for a long time are now landing. So it's just a time of great change, and you've got clients saying, "Well, I'm why am we know you're using AI, so should we be paying less?" And trying to navigate that conversation is is a big headache.
Yeah. Now, but getting back to Miami for the last few minutes, were there any specific talks that that show in the feedback or in the discussions that uh, you think really resonated with people, or that people connected with, or that spurred discussions in like the evening?
Yeah, well, Rory Sutherland came. He was great. He sort of finished the show. He was talking about how agencies should get paid for their ideas, and he was saying like the way it works is you've got lots of people sat around and you wait for the client to kind of ask for an idea and then you come up with one for them. And he said the way like the TV, there's a TV marketplace. I think it's MIP in. I think it's also in Cannes. He said like creative people develop these ideas and they go there and sell them. And he said agencies should kind of work the same way as well. So that was interesting. Blair Renz as well. He was talking about how to like how to price for value, and he said like value is something that happens in the head of it only exists in the head of the client, and a big problem agency leaders and agencies in general have is just getting paid what they're worth and not taking part in this race to the bottom. And he gave, I thought, quite a lot of things that people could take away on that subject. So that Blair and Rory, as expected, came up as really really popular.
Yeah, some really key quotes and takeaways, I think, from both of their talks. If you were to do Miami again, which hopefully you guys are, because it was amazing, what would be your takeaways? What would you change next time?
Well, we're looking at, so when we do these conferences, like Ibiza and Miami, I don't know if we should do them as kind of festivals instead of conferences, because let's say we want to make Ibiza or Miami. Let's say we want to make Ibiza 500 people and we want to make Miami like 400 people or whatever. As a business, we've got to kind of place all our bets on that number. Like we've got to get a big conference hall, and we've got to have and like you don't know how many you're going to get like a year out. That's the problem. You're kind of rolling the dice. So what I've been looking at is events that happen across several locations, because then it's much easier to manage. Because what you want to sell is the idea that you come to Miami for that 1 week and you will meet lots of people who are on the agency scene, and it doesn't matter if you are part of the event or not. It doesn't matter if you take part in all of it or a little bit. You if you're there, you can be involved. And so I wonder if we'll switch to that model as well. Because with Ibiza, for example, there's lots of people who are part of the agency family, if you like, but they're not currently running an agency. So for them to buy a ticket to a conference where you learn about how to run your agency, it doesn't make sense. So they want to come to the social scene. But at the moment, if people kind of just rock up and hang out in the bar and they don't buy a ticket, we're kind of like, we feel a bit grumpy with them because they're kind of piggybacking the event. But that's what they want to do. So how can we accommodate that? So that's kind of what I'm thinking about at any given moment.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. There's one that we've been part of a few times in Leeds in the UK. So the Leeds Digital Festival, where it's over a week. A bit too disjointed probably, because it's kind of one thing will be happening at 9 a.m, one thing will be happening at 4 p.m. almost. Could do with a bit better putting together. But that same concept of everyone being in the same place for a period of time, because that week there's so many mini dinners and drinks and things happening in the evening that you don't have to have gone to any of the talks, can be part of still. As you say, if you're on the fringe, I think that's a really cool idea. Probably a nightmare to organise, though, I imagine.
Well, the thing is, like, because we could have, you guys could run something. We like some of our other partners could run something. We'll run the central thing, because we have people in Ibiza running, like they organise kayaking or they go sea swimming, and so people want to do this already. So we're just working. Like, is the format we've got correct? So I don't know. That's watch this space.
Hey, excited to see what happens next.
I'm throwing a pitch in for Fort Lauderdale over Miami for next year. Miami's great, but I've been to conferences like the cPanel conference was in Fort Lauderdale. What's nice is it's only like 30 minutes from Miami, so you get all that beach vibe, all the same resort and like club atmosphere, but for half the cost, and it's a lot more compact, so it's a lot easier to jump around from venue to venue. Um, uh, just because Miami is so big as a place and it can take forever to get around. And it's a
Yeah.
lot expensive. Like Ollie, I think you said at the Moxie the first night, 2 margaritas was like $50 or something.
Oh,
More than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was about 78 once the tip was in.
oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, we did get that feedback that it's like having it in a kind of more smaller area. But I mean, the thing is, technically there's probably 500 places that are better to run a conference than Miami, but it's just
Miami
it's that
pulls people in.
it's the Miami pulls people in. Yeah, yeah, that's the kind of eternal challenge, really.
And I wish I had it ready to play. You can also play Swedish House Mafia. So, you know, you can get the song from Miami to Ibiza.
Yes, yeah. I wondered what people. Yeah, I get it now.
Well, Ollie and Mike, any takeaways from the Miami Agency Hackers event that you wanted to share?
My main takeaway was it was nice to be at a US event where people were willing to be so raw. And I think that it's bringing that format from the UK to the US, arrogant or not, because some of that would come across, I'm sure. But some of that format opened up, and the way the British agencies would talk to each other opened up some of the US agencies at the event, who I think then had a lot of advice they could share and give to the Brits, particularly as you know most of the British agencies who are going there either currently work or are trying to work more in the US. I think there was a lot of advice to be given both ways. And they really opened up, which was fantastic. Which we go to a lot of US events. I think people were a lot more honest and raw there than they have been at a lot of other events we've attended.
Yeah,
Good to hear.
overall had a lot of good feedback. A lot of people, US attendees, it was like their first event, or there were solopreneurs and or small teams. The only thing, and I think this will be easier over time, is it felt like there was like two groups, like the veteran Ibiza people, all the people from Europe, and then like the US subset. So I did hear from some people that they felt like a little bit as an outsider, but I think that in the US, potentially trying different markets, trying different things, uh, connecting with other groups like you're already doing. And I think that will just happen over time as just more and more people, you know, attend something, really like it, and then they'll tell their friends and it'll grow organically. But that was the only negative feedback I heard from people was just a lot of Americans felt a little bit like the new kid. And just because it was kind of cliquish. But
what about topics, Mike? Though, what were some of the topics of conversations and groups and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, everyone loved the networking. I think the speed networking was one of the best ideas ever because people really liked meeting other people. AI was always a big thing, but so was a lot of people wanted to sell their business. So a lot of people were talking about how to get their books in order. I talked to 5 different agency owners that was their topic.
See,
that's interesting. Great. Yes, they were tidying up. Yeah.
Yeah. You just said, Ian, you know, a lot of are putting the hands back on the wheel, you know, what you're kind of seeing in the community. And it's interesting. I think that's always a part of the conversation. You've sold businesses in the past and, you know, you want to, my premise as an entrepreneur is you build a healthy, profitable, and valuable company. And so if you have a valuable business, you have the other two probably too. So that's excellent. Topical that's on the minds of a lot of the people that were there. Ian, as we wrap up, anything you want to share, upcoming events, things you're doing that you're excited about with Agency Hackers?
Well, we're doing a few events in New York actually in June. So June the 10th, we've got something in One World Trade Center. It's a full day event So that's for agencies of 50 plus headcount. So if anyone wants to come to that, let me know. On the 30th of June, we're in New York doing a conference there, half-day conference. And we've got agency comedy night in the evening. So if you want to come to the second ever agency comedy night in New York, then that's at Rodney's on First Avenue. And the content is, I thought, is it going to be kind of a bit sanitized, and it's very filthy. Like it's way worse than in London. And we have actual agency comics from like Ogilvy and like lots of independent shops. They just stand up there and just do comedy about the agency world, and it's really good. And there's so much talent there. So if you want to come to that, yeah, the tickets are on sale now. And Ibiza, if you want to come to Ibiza in September, we are partnering with the European Agency Awards. So there's going to be all sorts of stuff going on that week, end of September.
Excellent. Well, for those of you listening in, head over to agencyhackers.com. Check out what Ian and team are doing. If you're an agency, you need to look at this. Communities like this are rare and done at a high level, as you've heard Ian talk through this, and Mike, Ollie, and I can heavily endorse this. So head over to agencyhackers.com, check out the membership and these events coming up. But Ian, thank you so much for being here today, sharing your short story, sharing some of the things going on in the membership and what you're doing next. And we appreciate you and everything you're doing.
Thank you. I mean, I'm a 44-year-old man, so I just I love talking about myself. So of course, I'm always going to be happy to do that. But yeah, thanks for being interested, and yeah, thanks for being partners with us on all this. It's very appreciated, and yeah, hope it was useful, interesting.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here today. Check out myagencysuccess.com for future interviews, live streams. We've got a lot of live streams going on. And most importantly, we're partnering with great people like Ian and Agency Hackers. Thank you all for being here today, and we'll see you next time.